All right, everyone. We are joined here with manager Bud Black. We'll go ahead and lead off with Danielle Allen. So go ahead, Danielle.
Hey, buddy. Do you have an update on a rotation order for the next couple of days?
Yes. John Gray tomorrow. Sensatella Marquez.
Okay. And then do you have any update on Conor Joe, or is it still kind of early evaluating?
Kind of early, Danielle, but he's doing better. Got a PRP injection to try to help things a little quicker. But yeah, it's really too early to tell. But he's doing better.
Is he okay with a PRP? I mean, I have PRP. It hurts a lot. Is he able to, walk and all that right now? Or is he on crutches?
No, he's moving around fine.
Okay, good.
No crutches.
And then I wanted to ask about Joshua Frentis. When you guys were looking at somebody to call up last week, what did you hear about how he was doing in AAA that showed you that he was ready to come back?
Well, he was swinging the bat better, for sure. I think the at-bats became more consistent as far as the quality of the at-bats. He jumped his average a little bit, knocked in some runs. He was, I think, feeling comfortable in the box and doing much better. That was a report we got from Pedro Lopez and Warren Schaefer.
Thank you.
We'll go to Patrick Saunders next. Go ahead, Patrick.
Hey, buddy, if I could follow up on Conor, is there a possibility, because we all know hamstrings can be problematic, is there a possibility he will not play again this year, or would you think he will?
I think that he will.
Okay.
Hey, but I'm not a doctor.
Okay. And the reason I asked the question, I want to follow it up with this. I know you've been very pleased with the way Conor played once he got that last call up. If he doesn't get any playing time or limited playing time toward the end of this season, have you seen enough from him in the early stages to really feel confident about your perception of him heading toward next spring? If that makes sense.
Yes,
okay.
that makes sense. No, it's a fair question. I think the coaches and I both feel, very strongly about what we saw and the performance, right? 290, close to 380 on base, a little bit of slug. Relatively small sample, but what we saw in spring training, what we saw, throughout this year, what he did in the minor leagues, leads us to believe that can continue. Now, you don't know until you keep playing, but he's got a good foundation of how he hits, and he does a really consistent job from at bat to at bat, game to game, and he doesn't waver from that. Now, are there going to be some peaks and valleys? Sure, we saw that. We saw a little bit of the valley, but he's come back and really done a really nice job offensively. And he's learning left field, he's base, so he's put himself clearly on the radar.
And we all know that, in this league, there's counter punching, so to speak, if that's right.
No doubt.
And teams are going to get a book on him, and he's going to have to adjust. But it sounds to me like you think his solid base is going to allow him to absorb the punches, so to speak.
We think so.
Okay.
Yeah, there's going to be adjustments from the opposition for sure, the opposing pitching staffs, and we'll see how Conor adjusts back. But the thing that he's done in the past, right? He's taken his walks, his chase rates, his ability to recognize the strike zone discipline has been pretty solid. Now, that shouldn't go away. Those things don't go away. He's in the minor leagues, they were there. The walk totals, the on-base percentage, the chase rates that have been measured now over the last few years, that even in the minor leagues. So he's put himself in a position to really be thought of as a guy that can make a major league roster.
Cool. And if you don't mind, I ask just a couple more, not on Conor, but
Sure.
on Julian Fernandez.
Yes.
You had mentioned the other day that when you saw him in spring training, you still consider him pretty raw,
Yeah.
hard throwing, pretty raw. What's changed?
Still hard throwing and still pretty raw. I don't think anything's changed.
Okay.
But what he's done this year, he's been able to get on the mound with repetitions, and the talent has shown up. Again, look back at the last couple seasons, 2020 COVID, he fell into that bucket of players that, didn't get to pitch. The previous years, he was coming off of Tommy John surgery, got Rule 5 by the Giants, got injured pretty quickly after that Rule 5 draft. There's been a lot of rehab. There was the COVID year. There just hasn't been a lot of pitching for Julian. And now this year came to spring training, honestly, rusty. And that showed in February and March. But it wasn't until he got the repetitions, he got in competition in AA, and then moved to AAA, that he just gained a ton of momentum just from the reps. And the talent started to show up. The velocity picked up, the strike throwing ability showed up, the feel for the changeup and slider got better. So he's in a really good spot now, just physically and mentally. Now, hopefully he can finish that off this season and, another 3.5, 4 weeks of play. He'll continue to get appearances and outings and, put him, on a good pace for next spring training. There's probably some winter ball in there for Julian, I think, in his home country to keep pitching, because really the last couple of years he hasn't pitched. He needs reps.
And one more on that. It used to be a guy who would throw 100 miles an hour was an aberration. Now we see it not all the time, but pretty frequently. So my question for you, buddy, is this: when a guy brings the heat like he does, or like Jairo Diaz did, or like even Carlos Estevez has from time to time, is it hard as a manager or pitching coaches to make sure those guys just don't fall in love with their power fastball and make them realize, hey, you guys, in this day and age, that's not going to get it done. You have to be more than just blow people's doors off.
No doubt. No doubt. I think that, as much as the velocity has increased over the last decade, and even more so the last couple of years, hitters are making adjustments to get the barrel to the ball, and they're making their physical adjustments within their own hitting mechanics to be able to hit velocity. And we've seen it. We've seen players hit home runs or barrel balls at 100 miles an hour, and you do have to have other pitches and other weapons to attack the hitter. So, and Julian will obviously fall into that category of power arms, but it's essential that the secondaries show up. We've seen a lot of pitchers the last couple of years, to your point, across all teams that have velocity. But hitters are realizing this, and they're concurrently making adjustments, to shorten their swings, to do whatever they need to do mechanically to adjust to the big velocities that are happening. But Fosty, Darryl, our minor league instructors, this year, have placed an emphasis on the secondaries with Julian.
Great. Thanks, buddy.
Yep.
All right, we got a lot more hands here, so we'll try to get through everybody as we can. We'll go Nick Rope next. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, buddy. When we talked to Kyle last night after we talked to you, he said that he noticed the hip. The way that he said it, if I can paraphrase, is more that it was like kind of annoying than painful, but it was a thing. Are you eyeballing him pretty close here between starts, or are you going to let him kind of figure that one out?
Well, we always, if you can imagine this, Nick, we always watch our pitchers, and we talk to them every day. You might find that hard to believe, but we do monitor our pitching staff, all of them, about their health and how they're feeling, and obviously we get feedback from them as well. So That will continue as soon as today. It's already happened. I've not seen Kyle today. We've had a later start date, as you guys have noticed. But yes, to that question.
Okay, well, let me rephrase. What to what degree are you being careful with him over the last like 3 weeks or whatever?
87 degrees.
I don't even know what a degree is in this
Yeah.
case.
But I'm always overcautious with our pitchers.
Okay.
Always cautious.
Okay. And I mean, does it change to that? I mean, we're at the end here and nearing the end.
At times, yeah. Each case is individual. Sure, I don't put a blanket on all 13, 14 pitchers, 15 pitchers, whatever we have. We take each case individual.
Okay. Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome, Nick.
Those lines, the little bit I've been around Kyle before the pandemic, he seems like a guy who is never going to have an excuse for failure, no matter what it is. Do you have to be, is he a little more honest with you, or do you have to be a little more careful in assessing him? Because when he talked yesterday, it was like, well, it hurt a little bit, but that's no excuse.
Yeah, he's been extremely honest with me and the coaches and the training staff. So that's never a concern of how he feels. So that's in place. He knows that our first priority is his care, like with all the pitchers and players. And as far as the overall reasons for a rough outing, and some people use the word excuses, it's something that we talk about as a team, and especially a pitching staff. And Kyle comes to the front of the line on how to handle that. Those types of questions that might lead into, having a reason for something to happen. But you're right. I mean, that's part of him. I mean, that's how he's wired, which, you want out of your professional athletes, you want out of your players.
Yeah, because he was even that way the year he had to get sent back down eventually.
Yeah, I mean, completely transparent, completely honest. Which is, it's partly why I love him, and he's loved by his teammates and everybody down here in the clubhouse.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right, our last few hands here, we will go to Patrick Lyons and finish up with Noah Yingling. Go ahead, Noah, or Patrick.
Hey, buddy. Story has the day off. Is that just general off day? And what have you seen out of Brendan Rodgers?
General, he's not starting the game. There's a chance you could see Trevor in the game in some capacity with a 4-man bench. It's quite conceivable he'll get in there in some fashion potentially. And what about Brendan?
Yeah, he's starting at shortstop. What have you seen from him in the middle of the diamond, particularly at shortstop so far this season?
Again, it's like a lot of players that, he feels best at shortstop. I mean, that's his natural position. He feels comfortable there. He's been there since, probably Little League. So that, that position for him comes second nature. I think what I like is, what we've seen the last year is the arm strength's back. He went through that little bit of a shoulder issue, and that got taken care of. But the arm plays, the hands play. His first step is solid. He's played a solid shortstop. He has, and again, I think that's probably just a function of his comfort level at that position, because that's his natural position. So, we feel as a coaching staff, and I think that his teammates feel very comfortable when he's at shortstop.
Hey, buddy, you were on the 93 Giants, had a similar record as this current version of the Giants. Can you draw any comparisons? I know you weren't pitching then because you were injured, but, watching your team and then thinking about this current team, does it bring back any memories of that year? And there are any comparisons?
Well, yeah, that was the comparison probably is that, that was a veteran team that we had in San Francisco in 93. We ended up winning 103 games. A lot of veteran players, Willie McGee, Will Clark, Matt Williams, Mike Felder. Catchers had service time, Robbie Thompson, Will Clark. The pitching staff had years, Billy Swift, myself, John Burkett, Rod Beck, Dave Ruggetti, Jeff Brantley, all guys with service time. So, there wasn't a lot of young players. Royce Clayton was our shortstop. He was young, but he was ready. We probably had a couple of younger service time players in the bullpen, not unlike the Giants have now. But it was pretty much a veteran-laden team that, collectively we had a good year. I mean, sort of like the Giants have put together a lot of individual players having big years. And when that happens, you're going to have a good team. We talk about that all the time, that, good records, good seasons are based on players having good years and not having off years. So, that's probably the main comparison I can draw to the two clubs.